of eternal balance. The ruins of Azrakar faded into the horizon as Maiya journeyed toward the sacred valley of Altharion. The whispers of the broken Lifesteal covenant still lingered in her mind, but she had no time to dwell on past battles. Ahead lay the final test, the truth behind the artifact she carried and the weapon that had bound her fate to the battle for balance. The bow of eternal balance. She had wielded it for years, but only now did she question the full extent of its power. If it truly was a weapon forged to keep order, then it must have a counterforce, a force that, if corrupted, could break the very foundation of the world. And that force was already moving. The Temple of Equilibrium. Maiya arrived at Altharion's heart just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the ancient temple that lay nestled within the valley. The temple, built in harmony with nature, stood with marble pillars entwined with golden vines, glowing softly in the moonlight. It was said that this was where the first guardian had forged the bow of eternal balance, using the energies of light and darkness to create a weapon that could tip the scales in either direction. She stepped inside, her senses immediately alert. The air was thick with an unfamiliar energy, one that made her feel both comforted and unsettled. As she moved through the temple's grand hall, she noticed carvings along the walls, depicting an eternal struggle between two forces, one of creation, the other of destruction. At the center of the chamber stood an altar, and upon it, a mirror image of her bow. But unlike hers, this one pulsed with a dark, ominous aura. The Keeper's warning. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, hooded guardian draped in silver robes. His presence was neither welcoming nor hostile, but his voice carried the weight of ancient wisdom. "You have come seeking answers." Maiya raised her chin. "I need to understand the bow's true purpose." The guardian nodded and gestured toward the twin bows upon the altar. Balance is not merely the act of evening the scales, but the acceptance of both light and shadow. Your weapon exists to preserve that equilibrium. Maiya hesitated. Then why does it feel as though the darkness is always growing? The guardian's eyes glowed faintly beneath his hood. Because the bow does not choose balance on its own. It mirrors its wielder's heart. Maia's breath caught in her throat. Did that mean the power she wielded was tied to her own inner conflict? The guardian continued, "You have fought for the light, but you have also embraced vengeance, anger, and sorrow. These emotions have strengthened you, but they have also begun to tip the scales." Maiya clenched her fists. "Then how do I restore balance?" The guardian's gaze drifted to the shadowed bow. "You must claim the lost half of your weapon. And face what you fear most." The trial of reflection. A sudden gust of energy rippled through the chamber, and the walls around her blurred into a void of swirling light and darkness. Maiya found herself standing on an endless plane of shimmering glass, her reflection cast infinitely in every direction. Then, one of the reflections moved on its own. Stepping out of the mirror, a perfect doppelganger of herself emerged, but with eyes burning like molten gold and a twisted smirk on her lips. In her hands, she wielded the dark counterpart of Maia's bow. "You cannot wield balance," the reflection sneered. "You are driven by fury. By grief. You have slain without hesitation. Your hands are stained with blood." Maiya readied her weapon. "I fight to protect." The reflection laughed. "Do you? Or do you fight to satisfy the darkness within you?" With that, the reflection loosed an arrow, forcing Maiya to leap aside. The battle had begun. Light and shadow collide. Maiya fought with every ounce of skill she possessed, but her reflection matched her strike for strike, movement for movement. Every arrow she loosed was met with an equal counter. Every tactic she employed was mirrored in perfect execution. She was not battling an enemy. She was battling herself. And she was losing. As the battle raged, the reflection's attacks grew more vicious, feeding off Maia's growing frustration. Her own emotions were fueling her downfall. If she did not shift her perspective, she would fall to herself. Then, a voice echoed in her mind, the words of the guardian. "The bow mirrors the wielder's heart." Maiya closed her eyes for a fraction of a second. She steadied her breath. Let go of the rage, the sorrow, the guilt. Instead, she focused on the truth she had always known. She was not fighting to destroy. She was fighting to restore. When she opened her eyes, the darkness in the reflection's bow began to fade. Her counterpart hesitated, just for a moment, but it was enough. Maiya loosed a single arrow, not of vengeance, but of clarity. It struck the reflection's heart, and the figure shattered into light. The battlefield vanished. She stood once more in the temple, the dark bow now purified in her grasp. The trial was over. The power of true balance. The guardian watched her with a knowing nod. You have done what few before you could. You have accepted both the darkness and the light within yourself. Maiya looked down at the weapon she now held, no longer divided, but whole. The bow of eternal balance pulsed with power, neither light nor dark, but something beyond either. She understood now. The world did not need one force to triumph over the other. It needed both to coexist. And she was the one who would ensure that it remained so. The guardian's voice carried through the temple one last time. Your journey is not over. The final battle awaits. Go forth, Huntress of Balance. The fate of all hangs upon your next choice. Maiya bowed her head in gratitude before turning away from the temple. With renewed purpose, she stepped forward, ready to face the darkness once and for all.
It is written yet unwinds, not of mercy, not of pain, only balance shall remain. Balance calls, the echoes rise, in her hands the ancient ties, bow of truth, both dark and bright, guide her reign, restore the night. One with darkness, one with light, she will stand, she